What's up, guys? It is Sam here, and tonight I have an awesome video. This is our first rendition of the New Hampshire rankings for the Democratic candidates that are running for the nomination. And we base ours off of what people search for on YouTube and what people search for on Google. You know, people's actual interest, not a poll, right? You look at some of these polls and there's 1,200 people trying to say that's what the whole entire state thinks, and that doesn't include all the other biases that come with asking questions, the sampling size, but also the sampling style for statistics. Like, these are all issues that are associated with polling. Anyways, we took all of this together and we're going to compare the two of them. So we're going to see what people are actually interested in versus like what the polling say, and we're going to come up with our own New Hampshire primaries. So with that being said, if this is your first time here, what's good? My name is Sam, and for those of you that are returning, you'd better be pressing that thumbs up button. Come on, it's your second time, and it's good to freaking see you. Appreciate you guys. Okay, let's get right into it. So as I mentioned, we use Google and YouTube search volume. So what we do is we go over to Google Trends. Google tracks all of the searches using the terms or individual words on both Google and YouTube. Those are the two biggest sites in the frickin' planet. So there's a tremendous amount of data there, and that data is what gives us the validity, the strength, or just like the confidence to say that like this is probably way more representative of what reality is versus what the polls say. So how I structure this is I put in the candidates' names up here at the top as the search term, and I pulled up the location, which is United States, and then New Hampshire. So this is just the search volume in New Hampshire over the last 12 months, but we look at 3 separate time periods. So I've got the last 12 months, the last 90 days, and the last 30 days. And in each one of those those time periods, I stack rank the candidates 1 through 10. So at the 12-month mark, they're stack ranked 1 through 10 to see who's ahead. Then at the 90-day, 1 through 10. Then at the 30-day, 1 through 10. To try to get an understanding of what's happening and where things are going. And then I take an average of all that. So we take 25% from the 12-month, 25% from the 90-day, and then 50% from the 30-day. And the reason, like the intuition, the logic behind that, is that what's happening today is the most fucking relevant thing, right? So that's why we use 50% for the weighting of the average on the 30-day. Now, for what I did from Real Clear Politics was I just went over to Real Clear Politics, and you just click on New Hampshire, and it comes up. So what they try to do is they aggregate the polls from these sites here, Boston Globe, Emerson, and Mass Inc., to come up with what their polling says based upon their numbers, right? And we all know that like polling has a lot of issues involved with it. And the easiest analogy that I've come up with, and I've used this in other videos for anybody who's stayed with me, but if your boss is standing over your shoulder, like watching you do your work, think about how your behavior and how you're doing things, versus when your boss is on vacation, right? Put your mindset on that. How is your behavior? And then look at the differences, right? One hand, your boss is over your shoulder. The other hand, he is not. And think about psychologically where you are mentally on those things and how your behavior changes. And that is the closest thing that I can think of to understanding what like polling is, right? Your boss is over your shoulder versus reality, versus where people are actually interested in terms of this. We want to know what their actual behavior is. So they go to these websites, YouTube and Google, the two biggest in the planet, and they search for what they're interested in. Why do you go to YouTube? Why do you go to Google? To search for fucking shit, right? And that may, right? It may just be going to your feed on YouTube and looking at what's in there, but there's also a tremendous amount of people who actually go and search for stuff as well. And this is the polling data, and I just took the top here, right? And I just put that ranking along with all the data we just mentioned from both YouTube and Google search volume. So there's so much more data over there into one spreadsheet and came up with this. And what we have here is the top 5 candidates, 6 candidates are Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg are tied at number 2. Tulsi, Yang, and Warren are all tied at 4th. Super interesting. So what we can see here is that, like, and I'll dive into the actual data now, but it's super close in New Hampshire. I'm in Massachusetts, which is relatively nearby. But then again, New Hampshire is just a small state, relatively speaking. But what we have here is we see that over the past 30 days, relative to the 90-day and the 365 for Buttigieg, he's moved up 3 spots. So he's getting a lot of momentum. Also, I think what I kind of saw here was Tom gained attention. So the money he's spending is getting people to search for him, to get his message out, right? Because we've got organic distribution and then we've got paid distribution. Not that, like, just because, oh, Tom has money, like, that's bad. No, it gives him the opportunity to get his message out in front of more people if he pays to get his message out. So that is what he is doing, and it seems to be paying off to some degree. He needs to do a fuckload more of it if he wants to get the same attention as, like, the top people, like a shitload more. But it is kind of interesting because if we look at the 90-day on Google, meaning the search volume for the last 90 days, between Andrew Yang and Tom Steyer. Tom Steyer has more search volume than Andrew Yang, right? There's more fucking interest for Tom over the last 90 days than there is for Andrew Yang, which is kind of interesting because it's in other states it's like they're fucking polar opposites in the sense that Yang is almost always ahead of Tom. So this is like the first time that I can remember seeing where Tom was actually ahead of Andrew Yang. That is kind of interesting in New Hampshire. Anybody in New Hampshire, say what's good in the comments and use the hashtag Stolt. So at the end of the videos when we get into our Q&A section, you can get your answer, your comment talked about or read or at the end of the video. So at the end of the videos, make sure you use or any comment you have, use the hashtag Stolt. But so I thought that was kind of interesting. Tulsi has been holding steady over the last 2 periods. Elizabeth Warren lost ground over the last 30 days. Now that could be interesting to see how that plays out. I feel like there was something around her wealth tax which caused interest in her, but I don't know if that interest was like, we saw that interest in terms of like what came out with the wealth tax thing, and then I don't know, I saw it almost like like it spiked, but I almost saw it subsiding a little bit in some of the national rankings that we do. By the way, if you want to check out the national rankings, go back to the channel. But we do this on a national level, so not just a state-specific level. So you can look at the whole entire nation, and you can look at it based on Google search volume, YouTube search volume, their website ranking, which is super interesting because why do you go to somebody's website? Generally speaking, for 2 things. First, you go there to learn something or you're interested in, right? And the second thing is to buy something or do something, like order a service. So if your website is consistently ranking higher than other people's website, we can see how this could translate into tremendous amount more interest in terms of donations, right? Because then you also get to capture, it's more complicated, but like the ads, you can put a pixel on the website so you can track these people over on other platforms. Pixel's like a Facebook software. So if you have these people going to your site and you have the pixel on there, and you can build an audience based on that to better use for marketing purposes. But I don't have no idea how sophisticated they are in their, online marketing thing. So I don't know how that will play out. Anyways, that was a complete tangent, but if you want to check out that video, go back to the channel, look at that. We look at their social growth, we look at their donations, social growth on Twitter, on YouTube, on their YouTube channels. Amy doesn't do fucking dick on YouTube. What else? Instagram awareness and some other things. So go check that all out, and if you're interested in any of that. Let's go over to the YouTube search volume here. We see a bit of movement where Bernie, he loses ground here, but he maintains his 2nd spot. So Bernie's kind of interesting. Have we? And this is just on a state-specific level, so the sample size is super tiny, just like a poll, right? If you were to try to say sample just in New Hampshire and then say that that was representative of collective America, like clearly we could agree that that would be inaccurate. So this is just one data sampling, but on the macro level, I do see a tiny bit of potential like subsiding of interest in Bernie Sanders, and it's interesting because him and Yang have been like two of the more consistent players in terms of overall that I've noticed, and to just see a hair of like less interest in Bernie, it's shifting away. Could be just the beginning, or maybe something's happened and it just, will come right back down. I don't know, but it will be interesting to see how that plays out with Bernie, and then what's going on. And I also they're expanding their team. Yang is expanding his team, I think, in New Hampshire. I had somebody reach out to me from the team over there, and that said that they just started working with them. So I would assume that if he just got hired, then they would probably be expanding their team over there. So this might be interesting to watch it play out in the future, because when we see this for Yang on YouTube, by the way, you should press that subscribe button if you want to actually watch this play out. But if Yang is actually expanding in New Hampshire by putting more dollars and teams in place, like on the ground, we could potentially see this change, because he's in the top 5 in any one of these 3 time periods for Google. And then we come over to YouTube, and he's just been consistently losing ground. He was number 1 at the 365, and there was some interest there at the very macro level. But then as you come in closer to the more relevant time periods, and there's less and less interest, right? He goes from 1st to 2nd to 6th. So there's virtually no searching for him, or very little. To put you in the top like relevant people, there's a lot less of that happening in New Hampshire, which is kind of interesting. If there's any states that you might be interested in having a video like this about, let me know down below in the comments, and use the hashtag Stolt, as I mentioned, because otherwise sometimes the comments get lost. I can get into my YouTube analytics. I can search for hashtag Stolt so that I can find like, hey, Joe Smith was like, hey, fucking Montana would be cool. I don't know if there'd be enough search volume in Montana, but we can check it out. Now let's compare this to Real Clear Politics. So RPC is just the Real Clear Politics. It's just a shorter title up here. And we do see that they are off by 2 spots on Yang. So overall, Yang's tied for 4th between Tulsi and Elizabeth Warren. But it hasn't been heading in the right direction for him here. Let's see, Tulsi, we're not sure. She's been bouncing around. Warren, she is not heading in the right direction. So 2 of these people could potentially drop out the next time we do these if shit doesn't start changing, because Elizabeth Warren's been losing ground and Yang's been losing ground. They've both been trending in the wrong direction. Even though we don't know which direction Tulsi's heading, she's had like an increase in popularity, then decrease. So she has a higher probability of potentially going either way, where the other 2, there's more evidence pointing that they could potentially get worse. However, we do have that tidbit of information that somebody let me know that they did get hired for the team in New Hampshire for Yang. So this is going to be super interesting to watch it play out. Here we have Cory Booker, which they have him ranked as 11th. We have him ranked as 8th. I mean, he's not really in the conversation, so I don't think having him off by 3 or 4 spots is that big of a deal. If Cory Booker was doing substantially better, then it would be more important. Biden they have in the top there. Tulsi they have off by a spot. So I don't know. It'll be super interesting to see how this plays out, and I'd love to know what your thoughts are down below in the comment section. Again, use hashtag Stolt so that I can get over to my YouTube analytics and just search for hashtag Stolt, and we can talk about these. So this comment is from Nestor Vinas. I apologize if I mess up the name, but what they mention is an argument that I hear is that places like Iowa are not into the internet like places, and TV ads are the way to go. Is there any way of verifying that data? Well, guys, anybody who is actually living in say Iowa or New Hampshire, Do you get the same perception that there's less people using the internet in your state? I don't think that's accurate personally, but I don't have the data, right? Like, I don't know. We do see less search volume. I do, when I'm looking at this stuff, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything, because this comment is in reference to California, who has like 30 million or 40 million people living in the state. So there's going to be more data to look at versus New Hampshire, which maybe has what, 3 million people, 2 million people. I have no idea. So I don't know. You're going to see a big dispersion in that, but if you were looking at the proportion of the population who uses the internet, I would guess it would probably be close to like a lot of the other states. But I'm not sure, because also, I'm just thinking about this. I live in Massachusetts, and there's certain parts of Massachusetts that like just got fucking internet, which is like blows my mind. I just moved up here from Florida, and before that I lived in Hawaii. But I mean, it's 2019, and there's parts of Massachusetts who just got internet to their house. Like, that just blows my mind. Didn't know that was even a thing in the U.S. So it is what you're saying could be true. I just don't have the data. I'd love to hear anybody who is in New Hampshire or Iowa, what that is. Is it the same as like Massachusetts, where there's certain parts of the state that don't even have internet yet? Like, that just seems so strange to me. But clearly it happened, right? And it is 2019. So the idea that I thought we were further along in terms of the adoption of the internet than we actually are, even gives me more like confidence in what we're doing here, because there's just going to be an increase in the consumption of the people who are on the internet. So the people who are currently using it are just going to increase their usage, and because it's going to provide more utility in some capacity or entertainment as time goes on. And the people who are just getting the internet are going to start coming onto the internet for the first time. So the volume of data that we're capturing, I think, is going to really be telling. I think, honestly, like, I think what we're doing here is going to be like either the way we do things in 10 years, 15 years down the road, or some derivative of what we're doing, because to do things the way we've been doing them, it just seems so antiquated to me. To like, fucking, you guys Google Iowa caucus Wikipedia and read what like it actually says. They like go to a room and they fucking basically play musical chairs, and there's time limits. Like, it's the most retarded thing ever to hold a caucus this way. Like, can you like, that just blows my fucking mind. Uh, the Mob podcast, the Mobcast podcast. What's good? This is fucking awesome. Thank you. I appreciate the swearing too, because I do it a lot in these videos. Do you take requests? Yes, if you guys do have a request for a specific state or something like this, or ideas, I'm happy to check it out. I'm actually quit my job, so I'm going to be doing this online stuff full time. I don't currently make enough money online to support myself, but I do have around a 2-year runway of income saved up. So it will be interesting to see how this plays out, but I'm actually testing this type of framework to analyze companies. So I'm doing some stuff on Tesla to try to understand the impact on Tesla from this additional awareness around things. So if you guys like that stuff, make sure you subscribe. But I'd like to see what Florida are searching for. So that actually is interesting. If you come back over to my sheet, I did add Florida as a ranking, but this one is an older one. So if you want to check out the channel, that was from 2 months ago. That one will be updated. I apologize. It has been so long. I didn't realize since the last time I updated that one. Jeez. Thank you for bringing that up, and I will get that out soon. My last day of work is tomorrow. Spring Graph Gamer says, think about numbers of donations. Q1, 2, 3, 4, 1 to 2 growth was, I think, 2.5 fold. 2 to 3 was 4 fold. Oh, so he's basically saying the growth rate is increasing. It was increasing, but from 3 to 4, maybe it's a 2.5. So it looks like an increase in terms of donations. I think he's referencing Yang. By the way, I appreciate anybody who does leave a comment, especially if you're using hashtag Stolt and we have the chance to talk about it, because there's some super gold, like, insightful stuff in the comment section. And I think that, like, I see more of them because obviously this is what I'm doing, but I think that the comments in here could be useful to more than just me if they're brought awareness to them. And in January, 15 to 20 million growth. Increase in donations from 3 to 4, assuming 25 to 30 million in Q4. But is fundraising due? Okay, so this kind of needs referencing Yang Yang here. Average donation is increasing, I think. Is this increase in commitment? I suspect. So what I wanted to touch on, what I actually briefly touched on earlier, was the website ranking. So if you go back on the channel and you look up the website ranking, I think we've done that maybe 4 times, and each and every single time Andrew Yang has been #1. So if they have a slightly developed like online understanding of what the fuck they're doing, having that much traffic to your website and being able to put a pixel on there and some code. So basically you just put some code on there that just captures some information about the user, like a cookie, you know, type thing. And then you can use that as a way to market, because then you know which audience is interested in you, so you can market to them to gain additional money, right? Because you know they're going to be more if you were to pick the whole entire population to market to, or the subgroup that is going to your fucking website, which group do you think is going to convert better at a lower cost? The group that's on your fucking website. So that if they're using that data in an intelligent manner, and they have their website that has consistently ranked #1 in our rankings out of all the sites in the US, I think that could be a freaking killer quarter for Q4, which I do personally. I feel that the online distribution of one's message comes more naturally or natively, or is just they're doing a better job with Andrew Yang, in terms of, I don't know if he understands the like, I mean, if you go knocking on doors, right, and I could knock on say 100 doors a day and talk to say 300 people a day, and then they tell another 300 people, so we got 600 people per day, versus if you go through and maybe instead of 100 doors, you knock on 50, but you film part of it, and you have some insightful thoughts and comments that you go over, and you distribute that media in text, and you can transcribe what you were talking about and have that as a blog post. You can take the video and you can put that up on Facebook Watch, and you can put it up on YouTube. You can take little clips of that, put that on Instagram where you say something intelligent or something quotable, and make memes. Like the ability to distribute one's message for that one day, right? So for the one day worth of like 50 houses, or like, you know, barn meetings or whatever those things are called, you could take that one day and paying somebody 50 grand a year, 100 grand a year, whatever it is, to take that and just put it out across all the platforms. That's free distribution, which means that you can get your message out to more people. So say if somebody were to execute on this and really go in hard on this stuff, you could get your message out for that one day where you get in front of 50 houses and 50 people or whatever the case is, and make that so you can get in front of 50,000 people for free. For free. So I don't know if Andrew Yang's campaign like understands all this. I don't think a lot of the campaigns understand all of this, because I don't see any of them really going hard. Because think about that. If you think about just an ROI, right? If somebody who goes all in online and you're able to tell your message to more people every single day than everybody else, like, you're gonna fucking win. We've gone into the data many times around like who's going to be voting, and people will say that older people are the ones who are going to be voting, and younger people are not voting, or it's just on the internet. First of all, the internet is the thing, right? Did that happen in 2016? I don't know. Has it happened today? I don't know. Is it happening next year? I don't know. It's either happened, is happening now, or is happening in the future very soon, that the internet is the thing. I personally believe it's already happened. And if you can get your message out online, you can just distribute it to more people. That's what you need, people's attention. Attention is the currency, right? You have to be able to get in front of more people. I'm not saying that hand-to-hand combat in the street is not good, right? That's the valuable stuff that you can film to put on fucking line. So creating that so you can put your content online and distribute your message to more people for free is a winner. And then if you take some of like the other ways of marketing online, you can get your message out to even more people for relatively cheap. I'm running ads for my buddy's business, and we have on Facebook because I want to learn, right? And he needs fucking ads run. It doesn't know how to do it, so I'm doing it for him for free, just so that I can learn with his money, and I want to get results. Like I want him to get results. So um, there's something like almost 700 clicks for 85 bucks or something, 90 bucks at an average of 13 cents a click. So he's got that traffic going to his site. So somebody could be running ads using this data to push it into wherever they wanted to for relatively cheap. Think if you have like a 1% conversion on 700 clicks, right? And those people on average donate fucking 21 bucks. You're like, oh shit, I paid 86 and I had 10 people donate 200, like 20 bucks each. So 200 bucks got donated and I only paid 86 bucks. I should probably do that again, right? And continue to advertise because it just makes sense. It's ridiculously cheap. Anyways, I appreciate the comment. We went on a fucking long ass tangent, but I do appreciate the comment there. This is from Crystal. What's up, Crystal? I think you said something on Twitter. By the way, if you guys want to have an easier interaction, sometimes it's more of a back and forth. We can do that on Twitter. If you link is in the description, but Twitter seems like the notifications on there and how it works. It just is easier to have a conversation on Twitter than it is on a lot of other platforms. So if you jump over Twitter and want to get in a conversation, hit me up. Link is in the bio. Crystal leaves a comment that says, maybe try and get a role in one of the campaigns doing this kind of stuff. I wouldn't be opposed to doing some consulting work because I think that some of this stuff is super interesting. I'm not, yeah, I mean, I would be open to doing something like that because I think using some of literally what we just talked about, if you guys know somebody in your campaign that you like, whoever you're talking about, share this video with them, especially that end part if they don't know what the fuck they're doing online, because what I just talked about is gold. Like the past 5 minutes of me talking about online marketing and the distribution and stuff, take that and share it with them, right? Because it will provide them value if they execute on that. It just fucking will. And then she also leaves a comment, Crystal, I believe it is. Biden was reacting to the guy, pretty much calling him and his son corrupt. Okay, so this is in reference to the California primary ranking video that just came out, if you want to check it out, where I saw a little clip on Twitter where Biden was actually like calling somebody fat essentially and challenging them to like a workout or push-ups or something, and the gentleman was a little bit larger, and to me that's like I say in the video, like I'm like, fuck, why would I want somebody like this in running my country? Like, just like level up your fucking conversation, bro. And she's giving more context to that because I only saw like a 6-second clip where he's just calling him out and it seemed to me like being a douche, right? So Biden was reacting to the guy, pretty much calling him and his son corrupt criminals, as well as questioning their sanity. I think it may actually work for him on some level. Some people can relate to someone defending family and oh man, this is a good comment. I just assume people would think some way like how I think, and you're absolutely right. And I appreciate you calling me out on that, especially if they are aware of all the tragedy that has happened with Biden's kids. I agree. I personally would not like somebody like that running my country. Like I think the conversation always needs to be leveled up, but it could actually work for Biden because if that makes him more relatable to certain people, I think that's a very good, insightful thought there, Crystal. I think that's an awesome comment. Not something that I would think of because it's not something that I'm interested. I wouldn't have. That wouldn't have added any credibility for me. It would have like taken it away. But I see how other people could find that being, like that they could have that kind of mindset. So that's a very good point. And this is why I say you guys should use the comment section to leave the hashtag Stolt because you guys are leave some really awesome comments.